What's going on YouTube? So back in the early 2000s, the Toyota Highlander became one of the first unibody mid-size crossovers to hit the market. In the time since, it established itself as one of America's best-selling three-rows, and a family favorite for many generations. On the totally opposite side of things, Hyundai was one of the last major brands to enter the three-row family crossover segment. But they have made quite a splash with their award-winning Palisade. So should your family stick with the tried and true, or is it time to give the newcomer a chance? Let's get into this comparison and find out. Now, like always, let's quickly establish the pricing and trim levels. The Highlander has undergone a mid-cycle refresh for 2023, but thankfully the price did not change much. This is the Highlander Limited all-wheel drive, which rings in at $50,210 after options and destination. Moving to the Palisade, we have a slightly higher trim than the Highlander, but due to Hyundai's legendary value, the calligraphy is still priced very similarly. The total price, with everything factored in, is $52,310. But let's actually get into the meat and potatoes of the video with the exteriors. Like I already mentioned, both models have gone under the knife for 2023 refreshes. However, you can really only tell that with the Hyundai. Toyota opted to not make any exterior design adjustments, so it continues to have a conservative and classy look. Meanwhile, the Palisade made a number of changes up front, including a bolder and boxier grille. Both Highlander and Palisade have full LED projector headlights, but the turn signals are only LED on the Palisade, and only the Highlander has LED fog lamps. Moving to the side, the Palisade continues to have the more squared off look to it, and it's also about 2 inches longer than the Highlander. In these comparisons, we stick with the facts and don't judge on personal preference. But let's just say that one of these 20-inch wheels looks a lot better to our eyes. Around back, we mostly have similarities as far as the actual features are concerned, but the Palisade does have all LED rear lighting and exposed chrome exhaust outlets. Now, checking out some of the individual features, both of their mirrors have heating and blind spot monitoring. For 2023, Palisade added auto dimming, which Highlander doesn't have, but Highlander added power folding this year, which is something the Palisade doesn't have. Now, in addition to blind spot monitoring, both models include very comprehensive safety suites. Inside of said suites are forward emergency braking with pedestrian detection, adaptive cruise control with stop and go, lane keeping assist, lane centering, and auto high beam headlights. And the last thing to mention on the outside is that the Hyundai comes with the overall longer warranty. And even though Highlander also has complimentary maintenance, it still has 1 year longer coverage. But the kids are screaming and ready to get inside and take a nap, so let's go ahead and check out the cabin. As we move towards the interior, there are some differences to discuss. Both have smart entry systems and remote start, although the Highlander's remote start requires a subscription after the trial period is over. You will also notice there are a couple extra buttons on the Palisade's fob, and that's because it has a remote smart parking system that allows it to pull into tight parking spots unmanned. Pulling open the doors reveals interiors that both have premium designs, but almost no similarities. Now, starting with the seats themselves, both have heating, ventilation, and memory, but there are a couple important differences. The Palisade seats are covered in luxury-grade Napa leather, and they are also more adjustable with class-exclusive massaging abilities. When it comes to overall material quality, the same story plays out. The Highlander has a nicely executed cabin, but the Palisade goes all out to a near Genesis level. It uses quilted leather, soft touch materials, real metal speaker grills, suede headliner, and more to make the space really punch above its weight class. After startup, you'll see very similar gauge and technology situations. Both have reconfigurable and customizable 12.3-inch gauges, now that the Highlander added it for 2023. Head-up displays are also available, and the Hyundai has the extra feature of blind spot cameras. Coming back to the steering wheels, both are leather-wrapped and heated. Another area of importance is interior storage, since these are family crossovers after all. Both have several storage bins for all the family's belongings, and I particularly like the center pass-through on the Hyundai and the storage shelf on the Toyota. Moving to the shifter, Toyota has stuck with a traditional shifter, which is easier to use without looking. And once in reverse, both have 360-degree camera systems. Hyundai has a special 3D view, and the Toyota has an automatic deploying parking brake. Both have 3-zone automatic climate controls, but I do appreciate that Toyota kept all the physical buttons instead of moving some of the functionality into a tiny touchscreen like the Hyundai has. And now that brings us to the volume knobs, so let's go ahead and give the audio systems a sample. While the speaker count is similar, the Palisade's Harman Kardon sound system produces the fuller sound. Now it's time to take a look at the screens. Both of them are rocking large 12.3-inch touchscreens with crisp resolutions and fast performance. They both also have built-in navigation systems, but what most people care about more is Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. The Palisade does have them, but they cannot run wirelessly like they can in the Toyota. Lastly, both Highlander and Palisade have smart rear camera mirrors and panoramic sunroofs, but just keep in mind that you do need to get the Platinum Highlander to get them. Now heading around to the rear, this is perhaps as important as the front since these are used as family vehicles. Dimensionally speaking, the Palisade has an ever so slight advantage, but it is less than the 5% difference needed to score a point. And as far as the features back here, they have similar amenities with an exception. There are USB ports, household power outlets, rear vents, sunshades, and climate controls. But only the Palisade has heated and ventilated rear seats. Let's head to the next row of seats. Remember that difference in size on the outside? Well, this is where it impacts the interior, because the Highlander's third row legroom substantially lags behind the Hyundai's. Both seat 3 across, but the Palisade has heated third row seats, which is something almost unheard of below a 6-figure price vehicle. Moving out back, both have hands-free power tailgates, and once they open up, space numbers are great in both. As a matter of fact, they are sized almost exactly the same throughout all 3 seating configurations. It is worth noting that only the Palisade has a power folding third row, though. That's it for the interiors, so now let's get them out on the street and see how they perform behind the wheel. Up until this year, under the hood, these two crossovers were quite similar. But for 2023, Toyota is changing things up. Whereas they both previously had naturally aspirated V6 engines, the Highlander has switched to a 2.4-liter turbo 4-cylinder, versus the Palisade, which is still rocking a 3.8-liter V6. Because of this, horsepower drops on the Highlander to 265, but torque rises to 310 pound-feet. emphasized a lot about the torque figure, 317 pound-feet of torque. It's a big number, and you can really feel that. Definitely pushes you back in the seat, and we took off there pretty fast.
Oh yeah. Yeah, this thing is quite quick. So it's producing 265 horsepower, which, yes, if you're keeping track of that, that is 30 less horsepower than the current Highlander V6 in the 2022 model. That said, the 310 pound-feet of torque is a 17% improvement in the amount of torque. So, in essence, what do you think, Drew, behind the wheel? We've driven the V6 Highlander many times. I think it equates to about the same acceleration. And there is 60 miles an hour in the Palisade. Now, granted, that was very much up a hill, but we are in Asheville, North Carolina. We don't have super familiar route for us here, so we're going to do the best we can to get you guys everything. That was a good acceleration for you all. As you can see, even with the throttle absolutely matted to the floor, this Palisade still has a very refined note to it, and I think that's really the biggest benefit.
In practice, the Toyota feels punchier off the line because of all that torque, but overall acceleration is very similar, even with the horsepower disadvantage. As far as the rest of the powertrains, both are using 8-speed automatic transmissions and putting the power down through torque vectoring all-wheel drive systems.
Now, as far as other aspects of the powertrain that you might have noticed during that acceleration, the 8-speed automatic transmission is something worth noting. That, of course, has not changed for 2023, so we have the traditional 8-speed. It's a very good transmission. As you can see, I'll kick it down there. It's very fast responding.
Now, as far as some other things to talk about, we do have an 8-speed automatic transmission on board. That's going to continue this year. This has always been a pretty good transmission. It's nice and responsive is one of the biggest things that I always remember about it, because when you change your position, you get a new gear change pretty much immediately. I do want to mention that Toyota put a lot of effort into making the new Turbo 4 refined. And while it is very good for this kind of engine, it still doesn't match the previous silky smooth 3.5-liter V6 or the V6 in the Palisade. Yeah, so I want to go ahead and kind of talk more about the refinement characteristic, because that previous 3.5-liter V6 was just absolutely buttery smooth. Yeah. So I know that's probably a big concern that a lot of you guys are wondering, how does this, compare? I think Toyota has really done a great job of refining this 4-cylinder to be very close. I'm not going to say it's quite as smooth, because it's very hard to, mimic those 6-cylinder characteristics from a 4-cylinder at the end of the day. But they have really taken special effort to make this not just a run-of-the-mill turbo 4-cylinder, which some of them, in other vehicles can be very harsh. Now, speaking of smooth and refined, that perfectly describes both vehicles' ride qualities. They absorb all but the largest road imperfections, while maintaining decent body control and not feeling too floaty. That's one of the nice things about these two, that neither feels like you're driving a giant vehicle, even though there's room for the whole family.
Yeah, and one thing I really want to just discuss with this Palisade is how comfortable it is while we're sitting here on the highway. That's the first thing that struck me when I hopped in this model this morning, is just, oh my goodness, this feels extremely luxurious. We don't have an air suspension or anything crazy like that, but the suspension is absolutely awesome. It soaks up the bumps really well. This is actually quite a rough interstate road, and it is just doing a great job. The seats are incredibly comfortable. I'm even getting a massage right now. I'm getting a whole body massage in a Palisade. Yes, I am, and I am not sad about it whatsoever. Now, I do want to talk about your ride quality for this new Highlander, because obviously, or the refreshed Highlander, it is going to carry over this year. So you're going to have your signature Highlander ride quality, which has always been one of the best in the entire segment. This does a phenomenal job of just soaking up the bumps, being very comfortable, which is exactly what anything in this segment of vehicle is meant to do. It's meant to be comfortable, to haul all 3 rows of people in opulence, and this Highlander does a phenomenal job. It really does feel like a Toyota Lexus.
Sound insulation is also very important, and they both excel in this area as well, with readings that rival many luxury SUVs. Now, even though the road surface is a little beat up, we're basically going about 55 miles an hour, so we'll go ahead and do the sound level reading. All right, 54.9. I think that is.
Wow. 56.5. It switched on me at the last second there. That's a very solid sound level reading.
And lastly, for fuel economy, the switch to 4-cylinder pays off for the Toyota, with a 3 mpg combined advantage. Furthermore, Highlander is available in a hybrid form, which is something the Palisade doesn't offer, and that pushes fuel economy all the way up to a remarkable 36 mpg combined. And that's where we will leave this comparison. At the end of the day, these are both very nice crossovers that are easy to recommend. But obviously, if you're looking for more features for the buck, Palisade is the way to go. Or maybe you're willing to give up some sheer luxury for the reassurance of reliability that the Toyota badge brings. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments below which one you would choose. Anyways, thanks for joining us for this Car Confections comparison, and we'd really appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. That helps us continue to make more comparisons, full reviews, auto show coverage, and more for you guys to see the latest and greatest cars. Also, consider following us on TikTok and Instagram if you enjoy shorter form content. And we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.